Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome once again to the weekly webinar presented by Affinity Federal Credit Union. My name is Oscar Cordova, and I'm the External Affairs Specialist here at Affinity. I am in charge of the financial education efforts of the credit union in all of the areas that we cover. Today's topic is payment strategy mindful of your credit. So we're going to be learning about what things can we do in order to keep our credit intact in the event that we've lost our job, or we've gotten our hours cut, or we find ourselves that we're not earning as much as pre-pandemic. Usually this presentation was made while people were going through the pandemic. I know that COVID-19 nowadays kind of like is in the review mirror, because it's kind of like not a lot of people talk about the COVID-19 pandemic anymore, and thank God the economy and businesses have been able to reopen, right? And we've gotten some kind of normalcy to our lives. But that's not doesn't saying that I'm sure there's a lot of people out there still either trying to find a job, unemployed, or they're employed but they're not earning as much as their levels pre-pandemic. And so the content in this topic is always good to have, because these are ways that we're going to be able to make sure that we protect our credit. Okay. A quick disclaimer before we begin: all of the information provided to all of you this afternoon is intended to be for information purposes only. It is not intended to be legal, tax, or financial advice. Each person's situation is different. So if you want to talk to somebody, a professional in a legal, tax, or financial matter, feel free to reach out, and I'll be more than happy to put you in touch with somebody that can have this conversation with you. Okay. Now let's start. During a crisis and post-crisis, which is where we are now, many people find themselves in a tough financial position. Often a crisis means that your regular income is interrupted. Now, it could be interrupted different ways. It could be interrupted by you losing your job. It could be interrupted by getting your hours cut, or for all of those people that used to get overtime, perhaps overtime is no longer an option. Another way that income could be interrupted is by the fact that, for example, a lot of people work from home now. Right, so now days have become longer, and actually that's what I've been able to experience. Before pre-pandemic, I used to clock in at 8 o'clock in the morning and clock out at 5, and that's it. Now days tend to extend a little more. Now it's 6:30, 7 o'clock, and perhaps I'm still working. So this may lead to some kind of not income interruption, but you may be working more than what than before for the same kind of pay, or perhaps in some situations even less. Okay, so for example, the coronavirus, COVID-19, has led many businesses to close temporarily, leading to their employees to lose their income for several weeks, and sometimes indefinitely. There's businesses out there that actually did layoffs, and people lost their job, you know. So if you find yourself in that situation, I'm sure that, I mean, many couple of years have already passed, but make sure that you take advantage of the unemployment benefits if you qualify. Hopefully you did. Okay, so if that happens, it's important to develop a financial strategy to pay what you can in a way that still protects your credit. Now, you guys know that credit is a very delicate thing. It takes many years for you to get a really good credit score. It can take just a couple of bad decisions or bad instances to ruin it all. And then to get it back up again to that score that you used to enjoy before, it takes a long time. So credit is delicate. And as you guys know, credit is our door to be able to acquire many other stuff later down in life that we will not be able to acquire by conventional means. For example, buying a property, buying a house, unless you have 300, 350, $400,000 in your bank and you can buy the house outright, you're gonna need to ask for a loan from a financial institution. And if that's the case, then you need to have some kind of credit established, okay? So we're gonna go over a couple of tips on how to protect your credit in the event that you lost your job or you got your hours cut or you're not getting any overtime. So how to prioritize your payments, okay? So most experts recommend that that you prioritize your bill payments according to what you need most, and what you have to lose if you don't pay. So this means that you should first consider paying your assets and services you cannot do without. And this is actually the definition of needs, okay? So you guys need to pay those bills that you cannot do without. This often includes your rent or your home mortgage, your heat, your water, your electricity, all of those kinds of utilities. And you need to pay them because they can materially affect your health and well-being in the event they get cut off. So for example, if you stop paying your mortgage, you might lose your home, or and not only lose your home, you're gonna lose your credit as well, because eventually the financial institution will start the foreclosure process, right? And this is definitely a risk to your health and safety. Another example, if you stop paying your electric bill, well, not having electricity it's kind of like will hinder your way of life because you need electricity pretty much for everything, right? Also, experts recommend that you pay any debts that are backed by assets. What does that mean? Debts that have some kind of collateral, some kind of like security with it. So you may want to consider these debts as your second priority because you can lose these assets if you don't pay the monthly bill. For example, if you don't pay your car loan, you will eventually lose your car and you may get repossessed, right? This can cause significant issues and trouble in your life. Other debts that are backed by assets are mortgages or loans where you've put up like cash in order to have some kind of collateral for the loan. Lastly, you may consider your final priority of payments to be those non-collateralized or unsecured debts. These are debts which are not connected to any essential services or backed by any assets. So failing to make these payments does not put you in immediate hardship. For example, a credit card, a personal loan, a student loan. Now, these ones, of course, you want to make a payment if you can, because you're trying to make sure that your credit is intact, or at least make the minimum payment, right? But at the end of the day, if you are unable to make the payment, you look at every way that you want to make the payment and you're unable to, these kinds of payments are not going to put you in harm's way. While such debts can definitely cause problems if not paid over the long run, they are the least likely to cause any significant issues if not paid during a short-term crisis period, okay? Now, the second bullet point here says choosing which bills to pay. If possible, experts strongly recommend that you pay all of your minimum payments first before paying anything above the minimum payments. Remember, this is for people that find themselves that they're not earning as much as before. So you want to at least make that minimum payment, that way you don't start getting ding in your credit for being late or not paying enough, right? This allows you to avoid having missed payments on your record, and is hugely helpful in maintaining good credit, making those minimum payments. Now, as a rule of thumb, a person should make more than the minimum payment in order to try to get out of debt. But if you're faced with a loss of income, then making these minimum payments will protect your credit while you improve your income situation. However, if you cannot pay all your minimum payments, then you may decide to mentally prioritize your debts, either using a prioritization efforts described before, or using your own prioritization methods. This can help you decide which payment to make and which ones you might have to delay, okay? Now, it's important to keep in mind that you cannot, if you cannot make the minimum payment, you may want to consider a partial payment. And although it may have a negative effect on your credit, it's still you're making a payment, you're making an effort. Okay, the best course of action is to take is to contact your lender immediately. You want to get in touch with those credit card companies, you want to get in touch with the bank or the mortgage company, and you want to let them know what's going on. These financial institutions do not know what's happening in your life. They don't know that you lost your job. They don't know that you're having a hardship, right? And so when you open up this communication channel with the credit card company or a financial institution, and you let them know of what's going on, then they may be able to put you on a payment plan, for example, or they may be able to provide solutions that you probably didn't know that they were available until you gave them a call. They may defer your payment at for the end of the loan, for example, or they may say, you know what, pay us X amount and we will not report you to the credit. All of these different options, all of these different solutions that they may offer can only be discussed once you give them a call and let them know what's going on. Now, when you give them a call, how to negotiate with lenders, okay? So if you're encountering financial hardships due to a crisis, one option you may want to consider is negotiate with your lenders. While minimum payments can seem like hard rules, there are many instances where lenders will be flexible in consideration of a crisis or you losing your job or a situation where it's kind of hard to make those payments, right? And especially if this crisis is like kind of like widespread. And a lot of people were affected during the pandemic and then after that by not being able to find employment. So for example, many financial institutions have provided financial assistance during the hardship period, waiving fees, allowing customers to defer payments on debt. And all of this can be of significant benefit, financial benefit to you, to at least ask your lenders if other options are available. When negotiating with your lenders, there are several compromises that may be available to help you protect your credit. Like for example, if you you call and you ask for a deferment on your payment, they may be able to do it, but if they put you on a payment plan, you better stick to the payment plan. You know, you cannot be like, okay, yeah, you gave me a chance to make a payment or make a partial payment every month going forward, and all of a sudden you stop making these payments. So because I mean it's a compromise, right? They're helping you out, but you gotta also own up to your part of the issue, right? For bills such as utilities, for example, for electric or gas or water, you may be able to take advantage of hardship benefits. So every county, every town, and even at the state level or federal level, there's many hardship programs out there that can benefit Americans. Such programs already exist they exist on the local level, right? They exist on county level, right? So I know of one, I think it's a electric assistance program where if you meet certain criteria, the program will pay up to 2 to 3 months worth of your electricity bill while you get back on your feet. But there's a different criteria that need to be met in order for you to take advantage of a program like this. But there are out there, and there are programs for everything. So there are programs for electric, for water, for gas, for all different things, right? Finally, you want to stay calm and protect your financial future, right? So by its very nature, a crisis or a crisis or the situation we live in right now, it could be scary, and it could be depressing. It could be frustrating, the fact that you want to work, or you're working already, but the money just is not enough. So it can be very easy not to think about your financial situation. It's something that financial stress is here and lives with us. You will always thinking about how we're going to make those payments, right? So instead of thinking so much about the problem and getting depressed and getting frustrated, you want to instead focus on just getting by or staying healthy in case you're able to start working again. So depression may lead to you getting sick. It may lead to you getting stressed, and you want to stay healthy, because you don't know when the next opportunity may come, and you want to make sure that you take advantage of the opportunity, right? So just staying calm and developing a financial strategy is very important for you and your family, right? It can help you get through any crisis you may be going through in the short term and protect your financial future in the long term. Remember that your finances are not going to go away if you ignore them, and you ignore your finance, and ignoring your finances can be damaging to your credit. Now, this concludes the presentation, but I just wanted to add something else. I've experienced myself through the crisis, the pandemic. I didn't lose my job. I kept working with Affinity, and I'm very grateful for that. And we were able to maintain ourselves afloat with my income. But my wife was let go. She was fired from her job. And we had to make a lot of different changes in our finances to be able to survive, to be able to keep ourselves afloat. So don't be afraid. This is what I want to leave you guys with. Don't be afraid of making changes in the short term in order for you to be able to go through this phase of perhaps not earning as much as before. Creating a budget is very important because that controls your inflows and outflows. And one of the things that I will tell people is that, for example, and I experienced it myself. For all of you that have multiple subscriptions, for example, I used to have Netflix and HBO and Paramount and Hulu. I was paying so much money, and I needed to make those different changes in my lifestyle. So I went ahead and canceled all of them. I only left one. And cancel all of that. And those are the little changes that you guys will need to make. Now, you will not know what changes to make or what to do until you sit down and you see your financials your financial picture as a whole. So you should, that's kind of like the exercise I'll tell people when they start making a budget. Have a seat with your spouse or by yourself or your significant other. Go through your inflows, which is your income, find out what your outflows are, which is your expenses, and then find out where you can start cutting or eliminating some of those expenses so it can take you through this phase. Once you find a new employment, once you're able to bring yourself up to those income levels that you used to have before, then you can slowly reintroduce all of these other expenses that you used to have, and now you're pretty much sacrificing for the time being. Okay. All right. But with that, this concludes my presentation. I would like to open up the floor for any questions that you guys may have. As a reminder, this presentation is being recorded, and in about a half an hour or so, you guys will receive an email thanking you for attending, with the link to be able to rewatch the presentation, as well as the link to be able to register for next week's webinar. Let me just take a look here. I can see what is the topic for next week. And the topic next week will be handling pay cuts or reduced hours at work. So again, the next week's topic kind of like feeds off of this one, because now next week we'll be talking about what to do in the event we get those hours cut, or we're no longer doing overtime and we're no longer earning as much as before. Okay, so I highly encourage everybody to register for that webinar. It will happen next Wednesday at 4 o'clock. So hope to see you guys for that session. Okay, let me take a look if to see if there's any pending questions. At this point, I don't see any pending questions, so I want to thank everybody for attending. This has been great. Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for your engagement. I hope this was informative to all of you, and hope to see you guys next week. Okay. Once again, thank you for being here, and have a wonderful afternoon. Bye-bye, everybody.